Welcome to ancient China, which spanned roughly from 1750 BCE to 190 CE. In Lesson 1, your learning target is to be able to understand and explain the geographic features and cultural development of early civilization in China. I have a Mr. Nicky video for you to enjoy, and then you'll be reviewing geography, vocab, and then doing outline notes while you read 10.1. In this video, I'm going to be going over the geography and vocabulary. So, understanding place. China occupies a major part of Eastern Asia. The Pacific Ocean forms most of its eastern border. Today, many different countries form China's northern, western, and southern borders. China's boundaries are now determined by politics. A borderline marks where one country ends and China begins. Long ago, geographical features determined China's boundaries. Towering mountains and vast arid deserts were China's natural boundaries. These geographic features protected China from outside invaders. However, these geographic features also held the Chinese in. Trade with other countries was limited, so China grew, produced, and invented what it needed. Without contact with other new ideas or traditions, China developed its own belief systems and unique culture. Next, there is a video looking at geographic challenge in China that you can watch. Then we move on to this map. And here you can see the Himalaya Mountains. When you remember studying China, or from India, we're moving into China. And to do that, we are crossing the Himalaya Mountains, which is in you can see the southwest border of China. And in the reading that we just talked about was talking about like deserts. So there's a couple deserts in the Gobi. You have some mountain ranges in addition to the Himalayas. And you can see there's color coding along here. Right now, the first two dynasties that we will be looking at is the Shang and Zhou. And so the Shang dynasty is this purple line. Goes through here. And then you can see the Zhou, it extends a little further beyond. And next week, we will be looking at the Qin and Han dynasty, which expand even larger beyond those early Chinese civilizations, which were centered around the rivers, of course. On this chart, you can see the advantages and disadvantages of geographic features in China. For example, the Gobi Desert. A desert provided good protection, but because people were not able to come in, but the same point, it was really hard to cross. So you couldn't, in terms of mobility, there's pros and cons to understanding the constraints that a desert has on movement. And like the Himalaya Mountains, it protected from floods, but again, it was really hard to cross. Okay. Now on to vocabulary. I would recommend that you write down the vocabulary words and maybe draw an image to help you remember them, or write down key ideas from the definition. I am now going to go through each of the 10 vocabulary words from 10.1, and these are listed in the order that you will see them in the reading. The first word is channel, which is another word for canal, or a narrow body of water between two land masses. Next is warlord, a military commander exercising civil power by force, usually in a limited area. So that word civil power means having to do like government. So a person who starts out with military power then comes into having governmental power to be able to control a region or area. Aristocrat, a member of an upper class of society, usually made up of hereditary nobility. So that word hereditary, it's a vocab word that we'll look at in a moment, but this means that somebody's social status they receive from their parents, similar to what we saw in ancient India in terms of how class was you were born into the class of your parents. Same thing with the aristocrat, and this is a word for the upper class. Ancestor, a person who was in someone's family in past times. You could refer to your grandparents as an ancestor, your great-great-great-grandparents as an ancestor. And this becomes important, as you'll read in 10.1, is because the Chinese paid a lot of respect towards their ancestors. Pictograph, a symbol in a writing system based on pictures. So here you see some examples of pictographs in ancient Chinese. Ideograph, a symbol of a writing system that represents a thing or an idea. This is a really cool concept, at least in my opinion. So we have a tree, you can see this symbol of a cross and then two lines coming down. And then to represent the idea of a forest, you have multiple trees. And here's some other examples of ideographs in both ancient Sumerian, ancient Egyptian, and then also in Chinese. So this is a technique that was used in many civilizations. Bureaucracy, a network of officials who carry out tasks of the government. Hereditary, receiving land or position from one's parents, having title or possession by reason of birth. Kind of basically, we can see this in ancient China. When an aristocrat died, a son or another member of his family governed the territory. Mandate of heaven, the belief that the Chinese king's right to rule came from the gods. The mandate stated the idea that the gods chose a wise and good person to rule. The person chosen by the gods would govern honestly and well. And this has kind of two sides, as you'll read about, is if the king, if good things happen during the king's rule, like there's a good crop season, everything, people view that the king is doing as he should, according to the gods. But if there's like a flood, then basically the people think that he is not a good king and he gets replaced. Dao is a Chinese system of beliefs which describes the way a king must rule. So this is kind of connected to the mandate of heaven. And the increased expectations of their king, which was a result of Dao, was a difference between the Shang and the Zhou dynasty. All right, you are now ready to begin 10.1, so you will read and take notes. If you don't have a printer like myself, use this template to make your own. Like I looked at the template here and I have my notebook, so I wrote in there. If you have another piece of paper. Another option is downloading this file from Schoology, and then you can even type the notes. So those are some options that you can do. And you can watch the next video tutorial, and I'll be reading 10.1 aloud.